everyone. Thank you once again for joining me for day 18 of our Grace campaign. My apologies that this is coming late because I usually do this around 1 p.m. UK time. And actually, I made plans for it this today, but something else happened, and because of that, I'm doing it now. So my apologies for those that were expecting it at 1 p.m. Anyway, we still have it done. We are still getting it done today, and I'm excited about that. So thank you for joining me. This is the Grace campaign, and this is the 18. And if today is your first time of joining me on this campaign, the Grace campaign is a 30-day journey that I embarked on about 18 days ago, where on a daily basis, I come to talk about the grace of God. And the inspiration for this campaign is based on my latest book, Mama Grace. This is a copy of my latest book, Mama Grace. Mama Grace was released a couple of weeks ago. And by the grace of God, people around the world are already getting it and reading it. And it's been very encouraging hearing the feedbacks. So Mama Grace is understanding and living out the grace of God. It is based on my work with God, my experience, and how I have enjoyed the grace of God. So I just want to share that with the whole world. And in the book, I tell a lot of personal stories. So this is one book that you need to get. This book is available on Amazon, amazon.com, amazon.co.uk, amazon.it, or whatever Amazon that is operational in your country. And you can get this book there. And it's also available on okadabooks.com. So if you live in Africa, you can get a digital copy of it from Okada Books. And as a matter of fact, you can actually get it right now. So yesterday, I started with the subject of grace and faith. And I made us to understand that grace and faith are not exclusive of one another. Grace and faith are not exclusive of one another, because if you look in the Christian faith, you find that some people tend to dwell heavily on grace, and then others tend to dwell heavily on faith. But grace and faith are not exclusive of each other. That is what I talked about yesterday. So today I'm still going to continue in that line of thought, and I'm going to make us to understand that how does grace and faith work together? How does grace and faith work together? You realize that it is the grace of God that enables us to step out and receive the promises of God in faith. Remember the scripture I read yesterday from Ephesians when it says that it is by grace through faith that we are saved. So it is the grace of God that enables us to step out, because without grace, which is that divine enablement, we won't be able to reach out and receive the promise of God. And then for you to receive the promise of God, you need to have faith. You need to believe that God has these promises for you and he's willing to give it to you. So you need both grace and faith to receive the promises of God. Anytime you see any manifestation of God or of miracles happening, it is always a combination of grace and faith. So for every promise that God has in store for you, for every personal promise that he has made to you, or for any generic promise in the Bible, we need grace and faith, because the promises of God are his gifts to us. And it is when we have faith that we step out and we appropriate those promises to our life, and it becomes manifest in our life. So we need grace and faith to be able to enjoy the promises of God. And then another thing that grace and faith does for us again is that it helps us to be able to, let me look at it here. Okay, yeah, I say the grace of God is what enables us to also stand strong in the times of trial. And in times of challenges, in times of trials, it is the grace of God that enables us to stand. And of course, you need to also believe in the grace of God to work for you. That is how grace and faith works together. Because if you don't believe in the grace of God, then you're not going to do anything. You're just going to recoil back and just give in to whatever is happening. But in the face of trials, it is that belief, that faith that you have, that yes, the grace of God is sufficient for me. God is working for me. God is on my side. God has given me the divine enablement I need. That is when you see things working out for your good. So I just want to encourage you today that grace and faith is necessary for us to obtain the promises of God. Whatever gift God has for you, which is the grace of God anyway, you need faith to be able to receive it. So this is day 18 of our grace campaign. I just come briefly every day to just share nuggets from this book, because we need to understand the grace of God so that we can enjoy the fullness of grace that God has for us. I know that in reality, I don't think we can actually comprehend the fullness of God's grace. But the more we make attempt to understand it, the more of it we understand, and then the more of it we begin to also enjoy in our life. So I'm going to stop here for now. This is the 18th of our grace campaign. And if you have not still gotten this book, Mama Grace, I want to encourage you to log on to Amazon right now and get a copy. And you can actually get a digital copy right now to your digital device. Get a Kindle app on your phone, or if you have a Kindle device, get a digital copy if you want. And if you are somebody like me that likes the paperback, because I like to write and underline, even though I'm the author of this book, I'm still writing and underlining in it as I read it. So grab a copy right now, or go on Okada Books and get a copy for yourself. And I'll see you again tomorrow for another session of the Grace Campaign. Until then, just continue to enjoy the grace of God.